Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly. It's your friend Rick from Blind, and today I'm going to introduce you all to Heather Inocencio. Heather is the founder and CEO of the Product Consult, a product management consulting firm that helps companies optimize their product development teams so they can build better products and accelerate revenue growth. Heather has over 30 years of experience leading digital product strategy, development, and teams at large enterprise companies and high growth startups. She served as the first chief product officer at the RealReal, the world's largest online marketplace for authenticated resale luxury goods, where she grew revenue from $100 million to $400 million, resulting in an IPO of $1.6 billion. She was also the head of product at HauteLook, a leading flash sale site acquired by Nordstrom for $270 million in 2011, where she built the product team, led site redesign efforts, and launched the iOS and Android apps, helping the company grow to 4 million members and almost $180 million in sales at the time of its acquisition. Thanks for coming on the show, Heather.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for having me.
Can you walk us through your career? Hopefully, I did your bio, your accomplishments justice there.
Sure, yeah. My career has been a pretty, I would say, typical trajectory for a product manager that aspires to grow, get into higher levels of product management leadership. I started my career unknowingly in 1990 at a telecom company. That turned out to be a really good move for me. I say it was unknowing because I didn't know what product management was. Technology wasn't cool back then. I spent 10 years with that company in product management, working on the emerging technologies team. When I left the company, I was overseeing a team of product managers, and my brain had been trained to think about emerging technologies and how innovations are just now making things possible that weren't possible before. Telecom in the 90s was pretty cool, by the way. That was the convergence of the internet and cell phones, and if anyone remembers pagers and long distance home phone service. And so we had all of these innovations happening, that made it a very exciting space to be. The internet came about. I got to start to doing development on the internet. That was cool. In summary, I spent, let's say, the first 15 years of my in-house career working for large public companies in product management and product leadership. About halfway through that in-house time, I moved to California and was very quickly bitten by the startup and entrepreneurial bug. Decided I wanted to step over into that space. I was living in Los Angeles. I was at a big public company, and I started networking. That was around the time that the term Silicon Beach came out. LA was really standing itself up as a tech center and community. And through my networking, just started getting my name out there, getting introduced to people and letting them know, here's who I am, here's my background. I want to work in the startup space. I love it. So ended up at HauteLook that you mentioned. That company, we had an acquisition that was pretty significant in terms of the buzz that it created for the LA scene at the time. And when I joined that company, I was the first product person with a product background and discipline. That was a game-changing moment in my career. I got to build the product discipline from the ground up. What is it? How do we function? How do we partner with engineering? The CTO and I had a great relationship. I actually just spoke with him a few months ago. And so once we were acquired, that helped accelerate my space, my career in the startup space. The leadership team at that company was recognized, and my phone started ringing. So I continued to seek opportunities. I ended up at another company that was a high growth, great startup, where I was essentially the acting CPO and CTO. Didn't have the titles, but oversaw engineering, product, built that company. Eventually, I had the opportunity to join the RealReal in San Francisco. So I moved from Los Angeles to San Francisco, joined as their first chief product officer. partnered closely with the CTO, who to this day is a very good friend. We've worked together a couple times since. And at that company, it was really around, we're big, we're growing, we need to see a difference in how product management is run. There was a desire to see product managers as thought leaders, really influencing strategic direction on what we were working on, what we were building, how we communicated, measured our success. And when I joined, I saw that product management was more of a top-down infrastructure. The leadership team would get together quarterly, decide what was important, deliver those roadmaps to the product managers. Product managers would then work to get work done against the roadmaps. And while I was there, we flipped that on its head. We established a model internally where the product managers had the insights that they needed to be thought leaders around, here's what we should be working on, here's why, here's how it aligns to the business goals and objectives. So that was a really fun, really challenging bit of time. After that, I decided to take some time off. I traveled the country, did a lot of backpacking and visiting national parks, and then started consulting. Decided I wanted to decide my own destiny, didn't want to go in-house anymore. And after consulting for a few years, things intersected, the pandemic, such that I decided it was time for me to start this company, the Product Consult. It's been a dream of mine for well over 15 years. And the idea behind and the vision behind the company is that internally, we have a collaborative, supportive environment for product managers who love the craft. They get to work internally with other product managers. So they're leveling each other up all the time. I just sit back sometimes and watch the magic, and it blows me away. And by having these well-supported, well-trained product people, we can now place those people with clients who are struggling with product management themselves internally. So we can give the best of breed product people to help other companies understand how to get product operating the way you want it to. What does it look like when it's working well? And so that's what I'm doing now. And the company today was really formed on the vision that I saw when I looked back over my career and realized when joining a high growth company as a product leader, maybe one of the first senior product leaders they've ever had, it's a really tough position to be in. There's a lot of eyes on you to be the silver bullet, figure it out, help us, hockey stick up into the right. And I realized that it was tough and thought there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better environment for product people that love the craft. And so that's what we're doing now. I'm about 3 years old. I have a co-founder who I've worked with for on and off 15 years, and a leadership team. And we've got 14 people on the team and continuing to grow.
Now, I'm curious, are there any kind of typical profiles or typical situations that you see companies or high growth startups, or even startups that are kind of finally getting that scale where they often make that mistake with product and they might need to call you for help, or they kind of bungle the first like set of product hires? Like, what's going on there?
Yes, absolutely. There are a very typical and consistent set of problems, challenges that we see. No one that knows product management will be surprised by anything I'm going to share here. So often, depending on the stage of the company, how much funding and how big their product team is or isn't yet, the problems that we see are I'm thinking through the mindset of I'm a founder or I'm a product leader. I don't know if my product management team is focusing us on working on the most important things. I don't know if my product management team is leveraging the engineering team to build the most important things. Are we building in the most efficient way? I don't know what should be on our roadmap. I don't know how we prioritize. A common problem I hear is product and engineering feels like a black box. I understand finance and customer support and merchandising and sales, marketing. Don't get those product and engineering people. They're odd birds. Don't know how to work with them, don't know how to lead them for success. And so as a leader at a company that's, let's say, post Series A or post Series B, there's a lot of attention toward, all right, you've got an investment, now you have more investment. You need to demonstrate to your investors that you are operating at a high level of efficiency. And a big question we see and I think of product design, engineering, they can all get wrapped up in a non-technical founder's brain as that organization over there. I don't know if they're doing well, and product's supposed to be leading it, and I don't know if it's happening well. So I need help. Another big problem that I see, especially with non-technical founders, is they're told, all right, you need product managers. So they hire product managers. All the job descriptions pretty much read the same. And unfortunately, a lot of product managers' resumes read the same. But there's such a spectrum of product management skill that a PM is going to bring to the table. Without that mental model for the business leader who's at the company to understand, all right, product comes in like 50 different flavors. Without understanding that, now you've got product managers who don't have that same mental model and language. The product manager and company fit tends to be misaligned. So we talk a lot about product market fit, right? That's an obvious. We don't talk about product manager company fit enough. We're elevating that conversation now. So you end up with a product manager who has a set of skills. They're ready to come in and deliver. They know what they know, and they're likely showing up based on what the last company needed from them. And so that's how they're showing up now, is they have a set of expectations. Here's what I'm here to do. You've got a company that probably doesn't really understand what is product management. How do I measure success? How do I create room for them to be successful? And what I see far too often is a year later, I'm talking to a founder who's saying, it was a bad product hire, so we've let them go. Now we have a search for a new one. And the product manager is beat up, right? They've spent a year trying to do great work and not understanding why they're not impactful, only to find it not working out. And then it's wash, rinse, repeat. Nobody's winning. The companies aren't getting the value they need from product management. The product managers are getting beat up. There's a lot of conversation around product management. I'll call it like the product management utopian state. We're autonomous, we're empowered, we're collaborative, we're adding value, we're allowed to experiment, we're allowed to fail. That is lovely in theory. It's not what happens at most companies. At most companies, when they hire product people, the idea of the leadership team at that company is, we're just hiring people to get stuff done, but we're going to tell them what to do. And so product managers want to be empowered to decide what to do. Leadership wants to tell them, there's no way you know better. I know better. So do what I'm telling you to do. And then, so those are some of the problems. And then there's turnover. There's not a clear understanding that the company is getting the value that they need from the product people. That's often when our phone rings. Help. They're reaching out saying, help me.
Well, Heather, first, maybe there's a mistake here, because I think Rick mentioned 30 years. Like, what were you, 5 when you started? The math isn't working out here. So like, you started really young then, I guess, right?
I was 17.
Wow. Okay. So you started early. And in terms of, for the audience, when I say the audience, it's usually me that I don't understand it. How would you explain to the audience what like a product manager does versus a project manager? So like, for those who don't know it or are curious about it, maybe want to go into this space, what's like a day-to-day like? What do they do?
Love this question. I love this question. So many people use the title project manager and product manager interchangeably and don't understand what a big difference these two roles and skill sets are. I actually just wrote something about this a few days ago. So project management is about getting things done, right? You can use the analogy we often use in tech. You're building a house. You've got to have a blueprint, and you've got to lay the foundation before you build the walls, before you install the plumbing, whatever the order is there. And a project manager in a setting like that, they're making sure that the right people are getting the work done. They're looking at project timelines. If this needs to be done before that, did this get done on time? How is that impacting the budget? So project management is about delivery. It's a hard job. It's a little bit like herding cats and having to be really on top of other people, and are they delivering on the tasks in the timeline within the budget that was intended? That's pretty easy to understand. Product management is about making sure that the right work is getting done. So our success, where a project manager's success is going to be, did the work get done on time within budget? Product manager's success is going to be measured on, did the work that got done actually move the needle for the company? Did it affect the top or bottom line? What did it deliver? People talk about outcomes and outputs. Project manager, output. Get those things done, check the boxes. Product manager, outcomes. If a bunch of work gets done over the course of a year for a company, but there's zero impact to the business and generating value for the business, then it doesn't matter. The project manager may be successful in that model, but the product manager wasn't. So really different stakeholders that we speak with, data inputs that we use to inform our decision-making. Project manager might be looking at people on the team and how efficient are they at delivering. There's a data input. I know that this person tends to work on this kind of time scale. They're faster, or this person's more thoughtful. Product manager is thinking, what are the customers telling us? What does the company want to accomplish? How funded are we, and what are the goals, and what resources do we have? Do we have resources to build the things we want to do that are going to move the needle for the metrics in the business? And so in that respect, they're very different. Companies, not all companies want project managers. They want that oversight and that drive to task delivery to be absorbed by the working team. And I've seen that work great. Other companies, frankly, should probably not be hiring product managers, because what they really need are project managers. And they're not creating the space for the product managers to do the job that they think they're there to do. Does that help describe it?
What strikes me, Heather, and I don't know if this is just from an outside perspective, it seems like both roles are very challenging, because you're kind of nudging people to get stuff done. And whatever I see in the workplace, if you got to say, hey, Rick, I need you to do this. And then, Heather, you have to do this. Oftentimes, you know how it is, they push back. I'm busy, I can't do it. And then you got to follow up on it. Is this part of the job that they have to understand? Hey, I'm going to have to be very vocal and say, hey, we have to do this. Sometimes criticize what they're doing and making suggestions that may not be wanted. Is that kind of a piece of it that someone has to go in, if they're interested in this profession, to have a thick skin to go back and forth with these people?
Thick skin, absolutely. Definitely got to have a thick skin. In product management, we talk a lot about influence without authority. You've got to be able to influence without having the authority to direct necessarily. So building relationships across your peer departments is critical. And there are so many skills needed to build good relationships so that a product manager can influence without authority. And this is a skill that I would argue is more necessary in product management than project management. In project management, if Steve didn't deliver by January 9th, well, then we go talk to Steve, right? In product management, you've got to have the support and the collaboration and the belief and the trust from your peer departments, so that when you are putting forth, here's the strategy, here are the things I want us to work on, here's why, here's how it aligns to the company. I've taken everyone's input. I've heard from the customer. I've looked at the data. I've talked to the marketing team, the customer support team. That is a roadmap that, unless supported by the rest of the company, it's really hard to deliver against. Because what we do in product management requires not just that we can inspire our engineering team to want to build it, our designers to want to design it. They also have to inform what it is we're building so that they're inspired when they're doing it. Well, the same is true outside of product management. Your marketing team, your customer support team, your finance team, your executives, your sales team, your merchandising team, whatever teams you have internal, they've got to be bought in that we're working on the right things. I understand why we're working on them. And there's so many trade-offs between those internal mouths to feed, if you will. And so for the product manager, it's not just about building relationships, but so that if I have to come to you, Jack, and say, well, we're going to be working on this set of things in this order, and the thing that you value a lot, it's down here. Rick's item is above it. And it's not just that it's just Rick's or just yours, but your question's gonna be, well, why isn't my thing most important? It's most important to me. I can help you understand that best if you trust me, and if we have a great relationship, and if I'm transparent, and if I'm communicating with you regularly, if you know what's going on, why decisions are being made, how they're being informed. That relationship building skill set for a product manager, it's absolutely critical. Otherwise, you risk having this roadmap, trying to get work done, and without the support of others, there's doubt, there's concern, things aren't happening, people aren't inspired to do it.
I mean,
So-
let's say that you're a new product manager earlier in your career, or you've just joined a company and you're new to the company. How do you build that trust and that kind of cross-functional networks to be able to do your job effectively as a product manager?
It's a good question. It's been a long time since I was a brand new product manager at a new company. What comes to mind for me in an environment like that is the product leadership, who you report to. If you're new to product and you're new to a new company, hopefully you believe in the person that hired you, that you're reporting to, and establishing a relationship with them, taking their direction, asking a lot of questions. Product managers ideally are excited about the products that the company is building and have done research before they join a company, so that they understand, what are we building? Why are we building these things? Who are we serving? How does it make our customers' lives better? How does it make the world better? So not all product managers have the luxury of being really, bought into the vision. Sometimes people just need a job, they need to work. But ideally, a product manager is joining a new company because they've done that research. So that's one thing I think about. Once they're at the company, a lot of there's a balance, I think, at any level in career with, what do I need to get done now, sooner than later, to demonstrate I'm doing the job, with what do I need to learn? How can I be a sponge? Building relationships with others. I myself, and I always encourage people, reach out to people from other departments and ask if they can grab a coffee, go to lunch. If you're working in a remote environment, there are so many cool companies that have cropped up now to help facilitate this water cooler talk over Zoom. So seek that out. As a new product manager, don't let yourself feel isolated or afraid to reach out, make yourself known that you're there, why you're there, what you care about, and listen and learn a lot. When joining any new company, there's a whole world of relationships and thoughts and previous decisions and experiences these teams have had together. So understand some of that. Yeah. And then working with the person that hired you. Do they want you right now digging into the data? Do they want you talking to the customers? Do they just want you to get the next 4 weeks of work done while getting up to speed on the business?
So it sounds like one of the biggest attributes you need to have is to be a good middle man, middle woman, balancing the needs of folks who are, want your attention or sometimes don't want your attention, have really strong relationship skills, right? That seems to be, from what I'm hearing from you, if you possess, some people are, they're innate in that, right? They're really good. They're able to bring people together. They know how to schmooze. They know how to make sure they understand what you want and deliver. Is that, do you end up seeing those kind of people that succeed, who are able to kind of handle relationships, could work collaboratively? Is that how it works?
It is.
Yeah.
There's one important aspect of product that we haven't touched on yet that is paramount. I don't want to say it's more important than any other skill, but without it, it's going to be really hard to have a great product career. And that is empathy for the users, empathy for who you're building for, the ability to easily and quickly look at the world through their eyes, right? We're not building from the outside in for them, but the ability to get into that mindset of the users that are receiving the products that are being built, and what does it look like for them to engage with them? That's critical. Otherwise, someone is more at risk of becoming a project manager with a product management title. An example of how that's shown up in my career, every job I took, I told my manager, I've got to become our user. So I can build products for people that aren't me personally as a demographic, but I've got to, kind of like an actor maybe getting into a role, I've got to become our user. I've had managers respond with surprise, like, I need to be able to engage with our products, meaning I've got to be able to make paid transactions. I've got to receive the product I've paid for. I've got to use it. I've got to see the email lifecycle messages that come to me while I'm using it. I've got to see what happens when I have a problem and I have to reach out. And I have had managers say, well, we can put you in a test environment, but you can't do paid transactions or they're fake. I've always required, nope, got to be real, live, let's figure it out. And everyone has said yes that I've worked for. We figured it out if that infrastructure didn't exist for product people to really become the user and use the products like the users do. And if anything, I remember one manager was kind of like back on his heels and said, well, we don't do that here, but let's figure it out. And we did. And it was easy. Like the friction wasn't hard to get there. And the result was that in conversations as a product person, hopefully I've got good relationships with the people I'm talking to, and I do have ability to influence. I'm giving them insight into how I think, how I'm deciding what I'm going to recommend, but I can also speak from the perspective of a real user. This is what happens. Hopefully I'm talking to users and I can actually cite what they say. Not every company makes that possible. So if they don't make that possible, even if they do, it's still got to become the user. That user empathy is critical.
And for your new company, how does it work? So you're sending out people to, as a recruiter or as a management consultant, when you place product managers, project managers, product people to different companies. How does that work for what you're doing now?
At my company, we have a great ability to jump in, and I say we, meaning every single person on my team is someone that I'm really proud to work with. I realized once starting the company early on, anyone that joined this company out there in the world now working with clients is representing my personal brand and my company's brand. So we have added people to our team very carefully, and I'm proud of each and every person and stand behind them. What they do when they sit with a client, it's not unlike what we were talking about when a product manager joins a new company. What needs to get done now, right? Where can I plug in right now? Like, what needs my attention? And where can I be that sponge and learn? We do have playbooks that we follow now for getting onboarded with clients before day one, including knowledge transfer so that we can hit the ground running on that first day. But of course, we're going to learn more once we're there. And it can look like anything from, and has been anything from, I have a roadmap, but I don't even know if it's the right format for a roadmap. And it's got 30,000 things on it, and I want it to have 15. Like, help me build a great roadmap that is succinct and smart and informed. And so we've been the first product hire at a company for earlier stage companies where you've got a founder, maybe not with a product background, but they've been the product manager because that's what the founder has to do. And the founder is now saying, all right, I need someone to partner with me, be an extension of me, and actually help me do this better. So building roadmaps, meeting the engineering team, understanding what kind of engineering cadence they follow. Are there sprints happening? Where are they in the sprints? What kind of documentation is being delivered to the engineers so that they know what we're working on and what we're building? And so we plug in day one, roll up our sleeves. And if it's building the first roadmap, refining the first roadmap, if it's getting engaged with engineers to make sure they have the documentation they need, if it's establishing how are we getting customer feedback, how are we doing customer discovery, if it's we've implemented data analytics tools for clients because they're doing things, they don't know how it's affecting their KPIs. And so we've implemented platforms and guided them through, how do you leverage these platforms? How do you look at the analysis? You've also helped companies consider their product and engineering organization. What does that look like? Do you need to hire? When do you need to hire? Evolutionary org chart. So for the client, based on your budget and your goals and your vision and your objectives, here's what your org should look like now in 6 months, 12 months, maybe 2 years from now. So it's really plug in on day one, understand ahead of time what the needs are, do as much of that knowledge transfer ahead of time, and then roll up our sleeves and start getting the work done, while at the same time always having this strategic angle of, all right, looking at the landscape here, where are the opportunities to get even more efficient? Where are the opportunities for improvement that we can feed to the client so that they can see their blind spots?
I mean, as you're kind of embedding with teams as a product leader, as a product consultant, are you noticing that there's like specific, key leadership or personal growth skills that people need to be successful as a product management professional or leader? What are those, and how can we develop those skills?
So the skills to be a great product leader, I think every product manager is a leader, by the way. It's just a matter of
Okay.
where we're on the continuum. But thinking about product leader as in, I am a manager of people and I have a team of people reporting to me.
Yes.
It's necessary to have been a product manager. I hear some people question whether or not. I absolutely wholeheartedly say you've got to have done the job to understand how to connect with your team so that you can help them be successful. Working up through the ranks of leadership. So I'm an individual contributor. Now I'm a manager of people for the first time. What does that mean? Am I managing people, or am I really responsible to be a good leader to these people? And that shift just from individual contributor to manager of people is a significant shift. You're doing way less product management at that point, maybe none, but you're leveraging what you know about product to help your individuals as they develop their roadmaps and as they're executing on a daily basis, building the relationships, thinking about the customer, thinking about engineering. So to be a great product leader, at the heart of it, it's the same leadership skills that we all pursue in wanting to be great leaders to other people. Specifically in product, that understanding of empathy for the customer, that we also have to know how to look at and read data, that building relationships across the company is imperative. Product leaders have to be salespeople and internal PR for their product managers, or their product managers are never going to get the vision and recognition for what they're doing. So those are some areas where I see product specifically, outside of just what is a good leader, that's specific to the product discipline. Something that breaks my heart in this industry, product managers are out there getting trained and getting told, this is what product does, this is what you should be trying to do. And they're super enthusiastic about doing it. And then they join a company, and the company doesn't create the space for them to actually do that, right? What the company really needs is project management. If there's not a leader on that team in that product leadership role that has successful experience being a successful product manager, then that product leader is at risk of just furthering this operating model that we're hiring product managers, but asking them to do project management. So leadership skills, critical. Caring about and genuinely wanting to see other people soar, and understanding how do you invest, how do you take the time to connect with them. But then specifically to product, just understanding the craft is critical. Otherwise, you're at risk of continuing a big problem that we see. As Marty Kagan says, 95% of companies aren't doing product management the way it should be done. I think it's probably higher.
Well, I mean, from my experience, there's so many pathways to get into kind of the product management career. I've met with folks that have been entrepreneurs themselves, and usually, when you're a founder or a CEO of a startup, the product is quite literally your baby, right? You had to come up with the idea, see a problem, and start your own product and start your own business around that. There are others that come in from a management consulting background where they really understand the industry or the target market, and they come almost with kind of a economic or quantitative background. And I'm sure there's others that are a bit more technical as well. Do you feel like there's kind of a right persona that tends to be more successful in product management roles? Is there a kind of type of product manager that tends to be in leadership and ascend to these head of product, chief product officer roles like yourself?
A great question. A product manager or product management leader's ability to be successful, like how is successful defined, is so different from one company to another. And so it's hard to make a general statement that if you come from an engineering background, that serves you better in your ability to be successful than if you came from a user research background, or if you came from a strategic business consulting background. There's so many flavors and varieties of product management success within companies. I think it's more about what we talked about earlier. It's that product manager company fit. So
Right.
a product manager really successful at one company, leveraging their engineering background, but they also have a real empathy for the end user. That product manager super successful there might find that they're absolutely failing at another company. Because that company needs something completely different. I don't believe that that any specific discipline, based on my observations, that any specific starting point is the right way into product management. I think it's the mindset of the person, whether you come from engineering, you come from design, you come from project management, you come from business school. It's having a natural inclination toward wanting to build for the end user, being willing to have that thick skin that we talked about, understanding that as a product person, you're a salesperson, you're a PR person, you're a data analyst. To me, it's more about just that natural inclination and tendency toward that set of skills that, yes, I like those things. I want to do those things. I've met product managers who have said once they discovered what product was, as complicated and hard and varied as it is, they knew they'd found their calling and they can't imagine doing anything else ever. Not all product people have to feel that way, but it helps to be really passionate about it.
So it's almost like having the kind of core hard skills of being able to kind of put yourself in the shoes of a customer or the end user, being able to influence cross-functionally, all directions with your executive, with your principal, with your leaders, rather than having a specific domain or industry experience or anything like that.
As a starting point for the career, yes, for the career in product.
Okay.
Domain expertise is something that comes up a lot for a product manager. So domain, I want to be a product manager, but I have zero experience in cybersecurity. I've been working in fashion and retail. Can I make that jump? And domain expertise specifically is going to be more or less required, depending on the domain that you're talking about. But in terms of the domain that gets someone excited to want to step into product, I don't think it's as important. Look, great people with a desire for product chops can be trained in what it looks like to do product management. What does your day-to-day look like? How do you focus? What do you work on? So I don't think it really matters the starting point, because great product leaders can train great product people.
Got it. Is there anything that you feel that, people often have these myths about what is a product manager? On Blind, we often see engineers kind of complain about their product manager, whether they're, delivering impact because, it's the engineers that are actually writing the code and kind of pushing the product out to production and into the world. Are there any myths like that you can kind of help us bust and demystify here?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked this question, Rick. Oh my gosh. I mentioned I started my career a long time ago. And at that time, what is product management? Where does it sit at the table? How does it fit with technology and marketing? Wasn't clear. So there was tech, marketing, and this product that was a little bit ambiguous. So for the first decade of my career, I reported up through a CTO. I sat side by side with my engineers. And that, again, that trained my brain in how I think about the relationship between product and engineering. It's tight. Now, not all engineers want to think like a product person. That's okay too. Got to be space for that. But I've found that many engineers I work with don't just want to do the work, they want to know why they're doing it. I'm going to give you an example of how this shows up in how a product manager can influence and create space for engineers to be successful. One of the startups that I worked at earlier had a PR team that went on a roadshow to do focus groups with our customers. They recorded them and they were using it to build a brand playbook. Cool insight and information. And it was going to within that company that didn't understand what product management was and what engineering was. That company had a mindset I see a lot of. Product managers are just here to get done what they're told to do, and engineers are just here to code what they're told to code. And so all of this really like meaty information or hearing the voices of the customers we're building for, the idea at the company was, and that's just going to sit with the PR and the branding firm. I was able to get my product team in the room to watch some of these videos when it was over. And I said to the executive leadership at the time, I want the engineers to see this. They need to be connected to who we're building for and what our customers are saying. And I was met with a lot of resistance. We can't take them off the floor. That's going to take away from their time to do coding work. And so my suggestion was, okay, I can take the engineers into like a lunch scenario. I'll pay for lunch out of my own pocket. I'm not going to bring the whole engineering team into some
Right.
huge conference room all at once. We can bring them in. Eventually, I didn't have to pay for lunch out of my pocket. We were able to expose the engineering team to these videos. And like 2 years later, they were still saying things, citing the voice of the customer that they saw in those videos. Well, so-and-so said this, and we understand how to think about that. I love to work with an engineering team that is really excited about what we're building, why we're building it, and has a seat at the table when we're deciding what we're going to build and how we're going to build it. Some of the best ideas come from the engineering team as they're thinking about, all right, well, there's a blueprint for what we want to build, but if we consider how we're going to get there, how we're going to build it, I can get us there faster, better, and maybe even with ideas and things you haven't thought about before. So I like engineers and product to be, we have different roles, but we work side by side, just like we do with design and marketing. I don't think of anyone as above anyone else. There are different roles that we play, and creating a real seat at the table for the engineering team. I mean, gosh, it makes for a better product, and it's a lot more fun to do it.
No, I really appreciate that insight and kind of how product or engineering or how the tech side of the business can work with the business side. Thanks for kind of giving us this consult or this insight into product and product management, Heather.
Right. Thank you for having me, Jack. Thank you for having
Oh,
me. I
thank you.
love to talk about this, and I'm happy to share what I've learned.